Do you feel good about the fact that the NFL has games Thursday night, Sundays, and Mondays? And now, of course, come December, they have some Saturday games as well. Is that a great thing in your eyes?
It is. I do, because I watch it. My kids watch it, and look, it's always been a part of my life. You know, my dad played, and obviously I was lucky to play, but it's important to me, right? And I like seeing the game growing. I like seeing these international games, and I like seeing football on as much as we can, because
do you think football would ever be embraced internationally the way it is in America, considering the fact that in Europe it's called football, soccer,
yep.
It's called football?
It's always going to be a challenge, I think, on the travel and the logistics. I mean, when those teams play over in London, they fly over, you know, on Wednesday, right? And then usually have a bye week after that for the recovery. I'm just not sure if you ever had a permanent team there, you know, how that would work. You know, I'm not smart enough to know, but I like the fact that we're playing in Brazil and Germany and London. It's growing the game. I was over in Paris for the Olympics. A lot of football fans over there, so I enjoy seeing the game growing internationally.
I want to transition to something that Tom Brady said here Friday when I was sitting down talking with him in front of this spectacular audience. He talked about today's game compared to what it was back in the day. You know, you started as a rookie. You played every game of every season with the exception of your last year. In 17 seasons, 16 seasons, you didn't miss a game when, you know, I'm not talking about 2011 when you sat out, but I'm talking about every season that you played every game of the year except that last year. Tom Brady talked about how he has a concern because in today's game, they sort of dummied down the game for the modern-day quarterback compared to what it used to be. How do you feel about that, and do you feel that's accurate at all?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, you know, to me, there's different offensive systems. I mean, you bring up my rookie year with the Colts. Thank you for bringing that up. We won 3 games.
3-13, yeah.
I threw 28 interceptions, which I don't think y'all understand how hard that is to do. You really got to get off to a good start. You got to throw 3 in your first game, 4 in your second game, 3 in your third game. If you get 10 early, now we have a chance to get on a roll and break it. And you think now with 17 games, Stephen A., one of these guys would break it. The problem is now, if the rookie quarterbacks struggle early, what do? They take him out. I go, no, leave him in there. Let him learn the hard way. Eli would have broken it. He only started 10 games that year. So anyway, I'm over it. But if one of these rookies wanted to kind of sniff that record, I'd like to get that one off my resume. Look, the game's still hard. I think that NFL coaches, I think smartly, are doing the best job they can of adapting their offense to the quarterback that's playing. If that means putting in some plays that player ran in college, I'm for it. I can promise you, Andy Reid watched Texas Tech's film and said, these plays work pretty good for Patrick Mahomes in college. We're going to put some of these things in. And that's different. It used to be, oh, we're the NFL. We're not going to run any plays that colleges run. That's beneath us. That's not true anymore. And guess what? It's smart what they're doing now. They're making the best quarterbacks that play well, they feel comfortable. If you put a guy in there that doesn't feel comfortable with the plays, and the problem is, Stephen, it's hard for those quarterbacks sometimes to tell the coach, hey, I don't really feel comfortable with that play. And it takes a while. I didn't learn that until my second year. That's why I threw 28 interceptions. And so, look, I'm still, I think it's a great game. Look, colleges now, with players transferring a lot, that does change probably what they're learning in college. You know, they're not spending 4 years under the same system as much if they're transferring, so that could affect what they know coming in. But I still think there's a lot of NFL quarterbacks that are playing at an incredibly high level. I think there's still some good football out there.
One of the other things, but he didn't say this Friday, but when I interviewed him on my podcast months earlier, Tom Brady said, hey, the defense is being dealt a bad hand. How about coaches educating and coaching and developing your offensive players better? So you know not to throw a pass over the middle if Ray Lewis is laying there. You know not to throw this on, a guy running this route and you're throwing the football there. You know not to endanger a particular player. You know how to save yourself from opposing defenses. You think there's any credence to that argument?
I think that's a fair point. I mean, certainly as a quarterback, look, I was always you're throwing across the middle, right? Where you want to miss? You want to miss low, right? You don't want to throw a guy high across the middle, right? And throwing into double coverage, So that was always a thing that you want to protect your guys, especially anywhere across the middle. Because I was real lucky. I played with guys like Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. Those guys always played. They always practiced, right? And so credit to them for keeping themselves in great shape as a quarterback. You certainly want to keep your guys healthy.
I'm thinking about what you just alluded to, protecting your guys, and that takes my mind to ferocious defensive players. One of the people that has complained religiously about how soft the game has gotten in their eyes because offensive players are protected so much is the great Ray Lewis.
Oh.
Now, I know you've got some stories to talk about when it comes to Ray Lewis. This is a man that I know very, very well, and he never stops complaining about what offenses get away with in today's game and how you don't let them be men. Let them be men. This is what he says. Tell me something. Tell the audience something about Ray Lewis as it pertains to you. What any kind of story you got about Ray Lewis?
Best defensive player I ever played against. Big, smart, fast, instinctive, studied film like a quarterback, I found out, right? He and Ed Reed, that they would study film, the same way a quarterback did, dissecting the little things. He's super nice to me now. He was never that way when we were playing, Stephen A. I always thought, it's interesting, because of the TV copies now, because you can hear all the things being said out there, I think Ray was the first guy. They were really studying the TV copies of the game, picking up on your verbiage and terminology of which way, audibles were going. So I always thought he knew a lot of our plays. I always thought he knew when we were going to snap the ball. So whenever he would blitz, he would time it up, and he'd have this running start toward me. And it's like every time he would hit me, Stephen A., he'd kind of like drive me into the ground. And he'd kind of use me to help him get back up, and whisper in my ear, "I'll be back here in a couple minutes, punk." Very friendly guy. Thank you for bringing that up. When he retired, it was like one of the greater days of my life. The Pro Bowl is different now. It's a flag game before the season that Eli and I coach. I'm 0-2 against Eli. I'm over that as well. But it used to be a celebration at the end of the season if you had a great year. And I was Ray Lewis's teammate in like 10 Pro Bowls. And I wasn't over there working and relaxing. I was over there where I was buying Ray Lewis's dinner, his drinks. I bought him golf clubs one year, kind of hoping he might not hit me as hard come next October. He never seemed to remember. So, but yeah, Ray gets mad at me because, I do agree at times that, or I don't like when quarterbacks beg for the personal foul call, right? If they throw it, I told Ray one time that if they threw a personal foul for a late hit on me that I didn't agree with, that I would decline the penalty. And he got so mad and insulted. He's like, no, I actually wouldn't have done that. But in the thought of my mind would have been, I'm not sure that should have been a flag. But when quarterbacks beg for it, that's what makes the defensive players mad. When they go, how can you hit me like that? If the quarterbacks wouldn't beg, then I don't think the defensive players would get as mad. But look, the quarterbacks, we want to keep them out there. It's good for the game when they're playing. But I get the defensive players' frustrations from time to time.
Some older folks call that the Keith Sweat or Teddy Pendergrass mode. That's what they talk about, the begging. That's what they're talking about here. Who's the biggest beggar? Since you brought it up, I didn't bring up begging, but you did. Who's the best beggar in the NFL?
Well, I think the guy you interviewed a couple of days ago was pretty good at it. He was, but it was kind of natural, He just kind of had this look to the guy, So it seemed to work for him.
Right. What about amongst the current players?
You see, but the thing about Mahomes now, he's not a big slider now. Patrick runs. Patrick gets his yards, and he still has legs, and so I don't know. I don't think anybody just jumps out to me, as much. So I think Brady still kind of, takes the title right now. Yeah.